Joints also stiffen with too much inactivity. According to physical therapists, the hips, knees, and lower back are particularly vulnerable to stiffness and soreness when they're kept in one position too long. This stiffness not only makes it harder to move comfortably, but also contributes to an overall sense of sluggishness. Without regular movement, muscles begin to weaken, which only increases the effort it takes to do everyday tasks. The brain feels the effects too. Researchers have linked prolonged sitting to a decline in alertness and concentration, largely due to reduced oxygen and blood flow. Over time, this can make even simple activities feel more tiring than they should. The good news is that small actions make a big difference. Standing up at least once an hour, even just to stretch or walk a few steps, can help restore circulation, loosen joints, and give the brain a quick boost of energy. Movement doesn't have to be intense to be effective. Avoiding long stretches of sitting is one of the simplest, most powerful ways to stay energized and alert throughout the day. Low B12 levels are surprisingly common in older adults, and the off-AE effects often go unnoticed until they start interfering with daily life. Vitamin B12 is essential for making healthy red blood cells, which carry oxygen throughout the body. It also plays a vital role in maintaining the nervous system, helping with memory, focus, and balance. When B12 is low, these systems begin to falter, often without clear warning signs at first. As you age, your body naturally produces less stomach acid, which is needed to absorb B12 from food. This means even if you eat a balanced diet, your body may not be getting what it needs. Some doctors note that adults over 60 are especially vulnerable to B12 deficiency, and many don't even realize it. Symptoms like constant tiredness, brain fog, tingling in the hands or feet, or even subtle balance problems can all point to low B12 levels. Left unchecked, a deficiency can lead to more serious issues such as nerve damage or anemia. The good news is that B12 deficiency is usually easy to correct once identified. Blood tests can confirm levels, and if they're low, supplements or B12 shots can help restore balance quickly. Addressing a B12 deficiency doesn't just prevent long-term damage. It can also lead to a noticeable boost in daily energy, mental clarity, and overall stability, making it a key nutrient to monitor closely as you age. Negative morning thoughts can have a powerful impact on how the rest of the day unfolds. Waking up with worry, dread, or a racing mind puts the body into a state of stress before the day even begins. This triggers the release of cortisol, a stress hormone that, in small amounts, helps with alertness, but in excess can leave the body feeling tense, tired, and emotionally drained. When this becomes a daily pattern, the body stays in what many doctors call survival mode, where energy is conserved for perceived threats rather than daily tasks. This mental state doesn't just affect mood. Studies have shown that chronic stress and negative thinking patterns can lower motivation, reduce concentration, and interfere with sleep quality the following night. All of this creates a cycle of fatigue that's hard to break. Starting the day with a mind full of worry or self-criticism makes it more difficult to engage fully with even simple activities, adding to the sense of exhaustion. The encouraging news is that this pattern can be changed. Mental health professionals often recommend simple mindset shifts in the morning, such as focusing on one thing to be grateful for or setting a small, achievable intention for the day. These practices are not about ignoring real concerns, but about redirecting the mind in a way that supports energy rather than drains it. Even subtle changes in morning thoughts can reduce stress responses and help unlock reserves of calm, clarity, and physical energy throughout the day. If you're over 60 and wondering why you're tired all the time, even after a full night's sleep, you're not alone. You might blame aging, but what if I told you there are hidden habits, foods, and choices that are draining your energy, without you even knowing it? Things that feel small but slowly wear you down. Today, we're going to shine a light on 6 things that secretly steal your strength, steal your spark, and how you can take your energy back. If this hits home, please like, subscribe, and share your story in the comments. You never know who's reading, and your experience might give someone else the energy and hope they've been missing. Skipping protein at breakfast can quietly drain your energy, especially after 60. Many people begin their day with toast, cereal, or just a cup of coffee, believing it's enough to get going. But these choices are mostly carbohydrates or stimulants that cause your blood sugar to rise quickly and then crash within a few hours. This crash can lead to mid-morning fatigue, brain fog, irritability, and the urge to snack, usually on more sugar or caffeine, which only repeats the cycle. After 60, your body processes food differently. Muscle mass naturally declines with age, and metabolism slows down. Protein plays a critical role in maintaining muscle, stabilizing blood sugar, and keeping your energy levels steady throughout the day. Without it in the morning, the body has a harder time supporting these key systems. According to nutrition experts, older adults need more protein than they think, especially in the morning when the body is coming out of an overnight fast and needs nourishment to function at its best. Starting the day without protein can also make it harder to reach the daily recommended amount, which affects long-term health. Low protein intake has been linked to greater frailty, slower recovery from illness, and reduced immune function. Breakfast is one of the best opportunities to build a strong nutritional foundation. A protein-rich meal helps activate muscle repair, supports the production of key hormones and neurotransmitters, and gives the brain the nutrients it needs to stay focused and sharp. Making this small shift in your morning routine, choosing foods like eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, or a protein smoothie, can make a big difference in how energized and clear-headed you feel. For lasting strength and daily vitality, breakfast protein isn't just helpful, it's essential. Poor sleep hygiene is one of the most overlooked reasons for persistent fatigue, especially after age 50. While it's true that sleep becomes lighter, with age, experts emphasize that aging alone isn't what leaves many older adults feeling exhausted. It's the modern habits that disrupt the body's natural sleep rhythm. Using screens late at night, whether it's a phone, tablet, or television, can interfere with the release of melatonin, the hormone that helps the body wind down. Blue light from these devices tricks the brain into thinking it's still daytime, making it harder to fall asleep and stay asleep. Caffeine is another common culprit. Some people believe that a cup of coffee in the afternoon won't make a difference, but sleep researchers have found that caffeine consumed even 6 hours before bedtime can significantly reduce both the quality and quantity of sleep. It's not just about falling asleep. It's about staying in the deeper stages of rest that restore energy. When those stages are interrupted, people often wake up feeling just as tired as when they went to bed. Inconsistent sleep schedules also take a toll. The body has an internal clock called the circadian rhythm, and when sleep and wake times vary from day to day, this rhythm gets disrupted. Some doctors warn that irregular sleep patterns can confuse the body, making it harder to fall asleep when you need to, and harder to stay alert during the day. Over time, this cycle of poor rest can lead to chronic fatigue, reduced focus, and even a weakened immune system. Maintaining consistent sleep habits isn't just a matter of comfort. It's a foundation for energy, alertness, and well-being. Addressing poor sleep hygiene can often do more for daytime energy than any supplement or quick fix. Dehydration often goes unnoticed, especially after 60, but it's one of the most common and overlooked causes of low energy. As the body ages, the natural thirst response weakens. This means you might not feel thirsty even when your body needs water. The result is mild, chronic dehydration that slowly wears down your energy reserves without clear warning signs. What feels like simple fatigue or brain fog may actually be your body signaling for fluids. When you're even slightly dehydrated, your blood becomes thicker. This makes it harder for your heart to pump efficiently and reduces the amount of oxygen reaching your cells. Less oxygen means your muscles tire more easily, and your brain feels sluggish. Simple activities like walking or thinking clearly can become more taxing than they need to be. Some doctors also point out that dehydration stresses the kidneys and affects blood pressure, adding to feelings of exhaustion or lightheadedness during the day. Staying hydrated also supports the body's ability to regulate temperature, flush toxins from the liver and kidneys, and maintain skin elasticity, each of which is important for aging well. Yet many older adults only drink water when they're already thirsty, which is often too late. In fact, by the time thirst is felt, the body may have already lost 1 to 2% of its total water content, a level that can impact physical and mental performance. Experts recommend sipping water regularly throughout the day, not just during meals. Even if you don't feel thirsty, drinking a glass first thing in the morning and continuing throughout the day can help maintain hydration. For older adults, this small habit protects vital organs, supports clearer thinking, and most importantly, keeps the body energized and functioning as it should. Too much sitting can quietly drain energy, especially after age 60. Long periods in a chair may seem harmless, but they have real effects on the body that go beyond simple discomfort. When sitting for extended stretches, blood circulation slows down, which means less oxygen and fewer nutrients reach the muscles and brain. This reduced flow can lead to feelings of fatigue and mental fog, even if you've technically had enough rest.